Hey guys, welcome to LA Love Creative, and today we're talking about this Sony 35 1.8 versus the Tamron 2.8. If you haven't, make sure you hit the bell so you can stay notified when we post new videos. Cue the intro. Now recently I had a chance to mess around with the Tamron 2.8 for Sony. I had an awesome shoot with a model from an agency that I usually work with. We were messing around, just comparing the two lenses, trying to figure out what I think is the best 35mm lens for Sony. Right off the bat, I'll say straight up, spoiler alert, they're both capable and pretty good 35mm lenses. Now, I do have my favorite that I'll discuss reasons why later in the video. However, I think just right off the board, both of these lenses are awesome. Now, why would you consider both of these lenses? Well, for one, price. The main issue I think for a lot of people when it comes to Sony lenses are price. They're very expensive lenses. And one thing, if you follow this channel, you know I'm a fan of the Tamron lens lineup. I think they're making really high quality lenses for affordable prices, and I'm a big fan of that. The Tamron 35mm 2.8 is no exception to that. It is an awesome lens from an optical standpoint. It is a 2.8 aperture. It is lightweight. It has really good contrast. I think the image quality that's coming from that lens would be on par with a lot of other Sony lenses. And when you're shooting with that lens, you don't really feel like it is a downgrade from the quality of a Sony lens. One of the cool things about the Tamron 35 is it's lightweight. It is even lighter than the 35 1.8, which I felt was the perfect travel lens for when we could travel, for the perfect travel lens for all around shooting and street photography. When it comes to image quality, I would say that it's hard to tell completely when you put both images side by side. I think one of the main differences that you're going to get when it comes to lens quality when you're shooting photography is the difference of those stops when it comes to 2.8 versus 1.8. I personally love shooting at 1.8 on my Sony lens. I think it's something that is just awesome, especially from a wide angle perspective, which I feel like when you shoot wide angle, I love to have that shallow depth of field in the background, which is even harder when it comes to wide angle. And I feel like when you're shooting with this lens, it just adds a lot of character to your background. Is that for everyone? No, some photographers don't like to shoot at 1.8 and they'd rather shoot something more closed down and have more of a sharper image. So it really just depends on the type of images you're looking for. When it comes to image quality itself, I would give the leg up to the Sony. I find that image to me just is more pleasing. Maybe I'm just so used to shooting with this lens, but I would say that when you're shooting with this overall image quality, I think you're going to notice that you gravitate to the Sony image more than the Tamron. It could be a personal bias, but that's just me. When it comes to the build quality of the Tamron, one of the things that I like about it and also don't like about it is a problem with most Tamron lenses. It is built kind of cheap. It is a lens that if you dropped, it's probably going to break. That is not a big issue. But if I drop the Sony, I feel like it could actually bounce back. It's made of pretty much mostly metal. I feel like it's durable for the most part. I would say the Tamron is all plastic, if not all, most of it's plastic. And I just feel it's not really that reliable when it comes to durability. Another thing that's great about the Sony 1.8 is it has a assignable button on the lens itself, and as well as a autofocus and manual focus switch on the side. I personally never assign anything to these buttons, so they are pointless to me. But maybe one day I will. So I like to have the option. So that's one of the reasons why I like this lens for that. When it comes to contrast and colors, they both have very similar looks. Like I said before, I think you're gonna gravitate more to the Sony look, but the Tamron, colors that come from the Tamron and the contrast from this lens are just awesome. Tamron makes really good lenses. I think the optical quality from this lens, you're not gonna be having any issues with. One of the things that I always say that, Tamron and a lot of Sony lenses suffer from is being a little bit too sharp, but personally that can always be fixed with some type of filtration. So overall, I think both lenses have great images, but I would say that the image is a little bit better on the Sony. When it comes to autofocus, that is one thing that I felt the Tamron was a little weak in. The Tamron I felt was hunting for focus a little bit more than my Sony. That is to be, understood because it is not a native Sony lens. If you want the best autofocusing capabilities on these cameras, you're gonna wanna go for Sony native lenses, Sony brand lenses. However, the Tamron didn't just have terrible autofocus. I found it was great in video modes. I just felt when I was bursting through photos that my Sony was face tracking and doing all that awesome stuff way faster than the Tamron was, and at 1.8, which is amazing, and compared to the Tamron at 2.8. And I found that the Sony just overall had a faster autofocus. When it comes to focus by wire, both of these lenses I believe are focused by wire. The manual focus ring on both of them is not the best. If I had to pick, I would obviously say the Sony's is better because it's actually at least a little bit more fluid, but to be honest, they're both not lenses that are that good at manual focusing. If you want a good 35mm lens that's good at manual focusing, you're gonna wanna go with this Sigma 35mm, which I actually did a video on. I felt that that lens is way better when it comes to manual focusing because it has a smoother focus ring. Now, is the Tamron 2.8 better than the Sony 1.8? No, I would say that the Sony 1.8 is a better lens overall, better image quality, better autofocus, better color, better contrast, but that also comes with a price. It's around $750, maybe $800, depending where you get it, compared to a $300 Tamron lens that is pretty good comparatively. Which one should you get? Really just depends on you. Personally, I was testing out the Tamron to see if this lens could be replaced, but I find that this is still one of my favorite lenses for the Sony mirrorless system. For some reason, I find myself grabbing this even when I'm shooting fashion or portrait more than grabbing a lot of other lenses that I own or rent. Now that's all I have to say about the Tamron 35mm 2.8 versus the Sony 1.8. And if you have any questions about these lenses, just let me know in the comments below, and I will see you next time. See you later.